Hello and welcome to Obscure Undead. I'm Azzy.
And I'm Adam, also known as the Black Rose.
Yes, and today we are looking at Black Tape for Blue Girl's 13th album release, The Cleft, Serpent, which was released on October 1st, 2021, this year, on Project Records, which is unsurprising since that is Sam Rosenthal's label that he's been running for forever. Now, this is the first Black Tape for Blue Girl release that I have listened to in its entirety since, I think, 2004?
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a long time. Also, it's the first album to feature John DeRosa on vocals.
Yes, and
all of us being on the album.
And I know we're going to talk about John DeRosa's vocals when we get into it, because I very much enjoyed sort of the emotive aspect, well, especially the emotive aspect of his vocals on many of these tracks. But this album is a concept album surrounding sort of the fall and journey alongside humanity of Lucifer, hence the name The Cleft, Serpent. And it is described on Bandcamp as an elegant, heartfelt, and tragic torch song to humanity, a deeply personal tale cast on an almost cosmic scale. The album is a mature and fascinating musing on love, death, and desire. And it says the 8 tracks, but there are 9 tracks out there, and there are also 4 additional bonus tracks. There are a lot of different versions, apparently, of this, but on Spotify,
I'm familiar with
9.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm familiar with. It's on YouTube. That additional track, which is not on the CD, is called Times Square 2008.
It's also not on Bandcamp. Bandcamp is just the 8 tracks, and it is missing that one. But
yes. It's an instrumental track.
Yeah.
There's too much to it. Although I did like it, and I think it would have been nice for it to be on the physical copy. But, having a digital copy is just as fine. I really like the album. It's actually one of my favorites of 2021. After I heard it the first time, I immediately knew that I have to own it, and I'm so happy that I do. First of all, let's look at the cover. Isn't that beautiful? I absolutely love this cover. I do remember reading on the internet somewhere that this picture of Sam Rosenthal, is actually from 1995. It's an old picture of him that was photoshopped into this cover. And now, it's described as a neoclassical Darkwave album on Bandcamp, with which I agree. Although I do think it's more than that. I think that the album is an album of ballads. That's the best way I can really describe it. Yes, I do hear elements that remind me of Support Aeternus and the Ensemble of Shadows, as well as Dead Can Dance. But I also hear more than that. And Azzy, I'm going to tell you how I've described this album to a mutual friend of ours. And her reply was, ouch. Literally that. That was her reply.
okay.
To me, The Cleft Serpent is everything that I wanted, what was that album called? Ghosteen by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, to be, but failed, unfortunately. I love the cover of that album. I wish to like that album, but every time I listen to it, it repels me. This album is exactly what I wanted that other album to be. And that's
so this is what your body just needed, was this album.
Absolutely, we can word it that way. It's perfect, superb, flawless. I've got nothing but good to say about this album. Now, as you say, it is a concept album, and however, it does touch a little bit on humanity, as you were discussing earlier. Times Square 2008 is one example of that, but I would also say So Tired of Our History. That's track 6. That song is basically all about putting shame on humanity. It's basically like the giant middle finger to humanity for everything that we're responsible for. And I do like it a lot. And there are definitely romantic elements, going back to The Matchmaker and Hidden Villa, Florence 1453. Although my 2 favorite songs, and I know we've got one of them in common, are To Touch the Milky Way and our common one, The Trickster.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, my two favorite tracks were the first two tracks, the Cleft, Serpent, and the Trickster, and I feel like they go together as a pair. And the reason why I enjoyed both of these so very much is because of DeRosa's vocal delivery, because it was so plaintive and powerful and despairing and anguished. And I really enjoyed that. That was what made these two tracks more compelling to me, as opposed to like ones later in the album where it's like when you just get depressed and you settle into the fact of like, wow, people are never going to change, and you just get tired because you've seen it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, John DeRosa does have a beautiful voice. I'm not familiar with any of his previous
Likewise.
albums like that. So it was interesting to see him step in for Black Tape for a Blue Girl. And it's very impressive. It's really, really impressive. And what I like so much about it is, even though it's his voice, it still feels like Sam's voice in a way, if that makes sense. It feels like he's channeling what Sam wants to sing about or convey.
I absolutely agree with that. Yeah. This couldn't be anything other than a Black Tape for a Blue Girl album.
Indeed. I mean, it doesn't have any woman vocals, which many of their previous albums do. Mm-hmm. I can't really hear any ethereal wave elements. It's not like Ashes and the Bricklayer or any of those albums. It's definitely leaning more on the neoclassical and ballads side. Whether people want to argue that this is totally goth or not is up to them. But to me, it's a great album. That's what matters. It's good. I love it.
And I very much like the way the story unfolds throughout the album. The lyrics are very well written. The narrative is lovely, and I really, really, really enjoyed that on the very last track, I'm the One Who Loses, there is a callback to the very first track. In the first track, the Cleft Serpent, there's the line, "You really shouldn't trust me." And then on the very last track, there is the line, "I said you shouldn't trust me."
Yeah.
I like that very much. Enjoyed that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just looking back at the lyrics. See, that's one of the reasons I like it when physical albums are easily available, because we can read the lyrics. And whenever I'm called in to be a guest, I can do a little flick through for the viewers. Yeah, it's a lovely booklet. I do like this picture.
Well, that's great. Is that artistic representations of Lucifer through the ages?
It could be. It very well could be. And especially it's portrayed next to the lyrics of Eris and Hermes, or Hermes, how that's pronounced. So it's got some of those Romanesque themes, and especially with tracks like Hidden Villa, Florence 1453. Mm-hmm. I also feel there's a bit of nostalgia in this album. So I'm not sure what Sam's trying to convey, but especially when you think about some of those lyrics and the fact that he put a picture of himself from 1995, there is definitely a sense of yearning and longing. And I like that. I tend to like albums that are like that. A lot of reminiscing.
And just getting worn down and beaten down, and yeah. I did enjoy very much the narrative of that. And I guess to say my lyric for the album is, "Snakey, don't leave me, I can't live without you." I thought that was just silly.
Well, the one that kind of stood out to me, and when I say stood out, I mean took me off guard, was when John DeRosa sang, "You're only a turd in a temple, a shit on a shoe."
Oh yeah, that did cut me off guard. I was like, oh, yeah. All right.
I would have sang that differently. You know, I'm a very visual person, so it's quite a nasty image in my head. But, you know, I listen to Alien Sex Fiend. They have lines like that too. So, and I know you listen to them as well. Yeah. Shit's coming down. How does that song go? The one on It, the album. Smells Like Shit. That's what it's called. Yeah, so mean, if we can handle that by Alien Sex Fiend, we can handle it. Lactate for Blue Girl. So aside from that line, I like the concept and the lyrics and, you know, all of those things. It's a great album. It's perfect.
Yeah. So if this sounds interesting to you, go check it out on Bandcamp. Give it a listen. Come back here and tell us if you think we were way off base, or if you loved it more than we did, or if you absolutely hated it. We want to hear your opinion.
Yes, and now that brings us to my affirmation. So this affirmation is about deception. Sometimes people tell you that it's all in your head and it's all about your perspective or how you might be misinterpreting it. But if you listen to your gut carefully, you will know that that's not true. I believe that with yours too.
All right. So we will see you next time. Bye.
Cheers.
This ignorance of consciousness, despair.